Voorhees Township Committee meeting for May 13th, 2024. We'd like to begin with the flag salute. Everyone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We start with the roll call.
Mrs. Pepperidge?
Present.
Mr. Platt?
Here.
Mr. Rabbits?
Here.
Mrs. Cito?
Present.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. Do notice this meeting has been published by the clerk in both the Courier Post and Inquirer newspapers, as well as electronic notice as required by law. Also, a copy of the annual meeting notice has been posted on the bulletin board outside the Township Clerk's office. Township Committee believes in the rights of citizens to observe and comment during committee public meetings. To ensure that all citizens have the opportunity to participate, Township Committee has adopted certain guidelines which will be read prior to any public comment. Number one, the mayor, deputy mayor, or their designees will recognize those individuals in the audience who wish to make comment. Number two, all members of the public attending in-person committee meetings must treat each other and committee members with respect. Number three, state your full name and address for the record. Number four, please limit your comments to 4 minutes. Number five, if you have a question that we are unable to answer at the meeting, feel free to submit your questions to the Township Administrator in writing. Include your name, address, and telephone number where you can be reached. And number six, individuals offering comments are not permitted to make personal attacks on any employee, committee members, staff, other testifiers, or members of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Long. We'll begin with the first reading of an ordinance, number 450-24, amending the 2024 fee schedule. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're approved. You need a roll call?
No, that's good.
Okay. The next portion, we're going to open it up for public comments for resolutions only. So this portion is just if you have a public comment on any of our resolutions this evening.
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are closed. So I'm going to read off the resolutions. First resolution, number 139-24, memorializing an executive session from the meeting of April 8th, 2024. Resolution number 140-24, authorizing an agreement between the Township of Voorhees and Blau for real estate tax appeal services. Resolution number 141-24, authorizing the extension of a shared services agreement between the Township of Voorhees and the Voorhees Board of Education for groundskeeping services. Resolution number 142-24, authorizing the release of a maintenance guarantee for Virtua Health Birthing Center, Block 228, Lots 7, 10, and 12. Resolution number 143-24, authorizing the ratification of a collective bargaining agreement between the Township of Voorhees and International Association of Firefighters, Local number 3249, Fire Captains and Battalion Chiefs. Resolution number 144-24, appointing Wyan Velozos, okay, to the position of police officer in the Voorhees Township Police Department. Resolution number 145-24, appointing Thomas O'Brien as fire official in the Voorhees Township Fire Department, Fire Prevention Bureau. Resolution number 146-24, authorizing the appointment of Garrett Walsh to the position of full-time emergency medical technician in the Voorhees Township Fire Department. Resolution number 147-24, authorizing the appointment of Kevin Bagnell to the position of part-time UCC inspector and subcode official in the Voorhees Township Construction Department. Resolution number 148-24, authorizing the appointment of Jacqueline Holroyd to the permanent position of Clerk 1 in the Voorhees Township Construction Department. And there is no need for an executive session this evening. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve resolutions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are approved. Okay. Approval of the minutes from April 8th, 2024. Approval of the work session minutes for April 8th, 2024. Approval of the executive session minutes for April 8th, 2024. Court Administrator's Report for April 2024. Registrar's Report for March 2024. Tax Collector's Report for April 2024. Approval of bills for April 22nd, 2024, and approval of bills for May 13th, 2024. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ravitz abstained from April 8th work session minutes, April 8th executive session minutes, but actual minutes of the meeting I was on via phone.
Okay. The Township of Voorhees would also like to recognize, and we have issued a proclamation, which we have mailed, National Infertility Awareness Week this week. And next, I will open it up for comments from committee.
Yes, everybody looks at me. Gotta love it. Well, first I wanted to say thank you to our fire chief for the ordinance. I'm excited that we're moving forward with our fee ordinance change, and also for your assistance in getting us to closure on our collective bargaining agreement that we approved tonight. Also, congratulations to Tom. Happy to have him as our fire official, and a welcome back, I guess, to Wine to our police department. Also wanted to let everybody know that the Eastern High School Student Diversity Committee is hosting an expo on May 21st at the high school, and also that our Arts Commission has moved the vast majority of their classes and events outside of the mall since the galleries closed down due to the fire. Some of them will be in Lions Lake, and some of them will be at the library. So please do go online and check, and hope that you will continue to support our arts. That's all.
I'll echo what Jackie said about Tom O'Brien. Congratulations to Tom. Tom's been, how long has he been in the fire department for?
23 years.
23 years. He's a neighbor of mine, and he was integral in helping, along with Chief Poland and some other of our current leadership, into making our the fire district into a municipal fire department, which allowed our current department to have the equipment that they need to adequately service our community and not rely on neighboring townships. And this is a bunch of years now, right, Jim? Yeah. Like 8 years, 7 years? 8 years. I mean, it was in really bad shape. The district, for those of you that don't know, most fire departments in the state of New Jersey are run as separate entities, kind of like school districts. We had a situation where the fire district, which Township Committee had nothing really to do with, and was basically broke, and equipment was not up to date, bills piling up, and I believe it could be pension or healthcare, something wasn't being paid, if I recall. So I'm not saying everything's been smooth and not had some rocky moments and learning experiences, but thank you to Tom for all his help in that transition, because it's never easy in this state to do something like that. And of course, thanks to Chief Poland, because he was integral, along with their union, in making that happen. And Chief Bory, he had like 5 roles in the town at that point. So.
Didn't need any sleep, it's fine.
I'll say congratulations to Tom also. I've known Tom since we coached our kids played soccer together 20 years ago. So always
Awesome.
very friendly, always very good at the job he's done. Very happy to see him become a fire official.
And he won the Wawa Hoagie contest, so.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other comments from committee? Okay. I'm going to now open it up to comments from the public. If you have a comment, we ask that you just step forward to the podium, and before you speak, if you could just please state your name and address for the record. So we welcome anyone who wants to make a public comment at this time.
And seeing no one? Seeing someone?
Oh, he wants to sit in this seat, I think.
You're doing a darn good job.
We're down one, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
It's very weird being on this side, by the way. Although it's good, I get my Monday nights back. Mike Friedman, I'm in Acorn Hill Development, Voorhees, New Jersey. I want to thank the Township Committee for its clear and unequivocal written statement last month, and statements since, that this body has made against the rising tide of anti-Semitism in our area and across the country as a whole. And to, even more importantly, to reassure your constituents Voorhees residents that anti-Semitism and its purveyors have no safe harbor in Voorhees Township. And this was even made more prominent after news came about regarding a proposed pro-Gaza walkout in the middle of the school day at Eastern Regional High School, a walkout where outside agitators were invited, encouraged to come. I mean, just something that many of us didn't feel was appropriate or safe for high school students in the middle of the day. Look, as a federal litigator, I am a huge proponent of free speech, and as a former committee member, certainly. However, free speech is not absolute. Speech that may incite violence isn't protected, nor is speech that unduly disrupts the learning environment in a public school setting. That's something that I think you all kind of certainly understood. We need look no further than the horrific, hateful, violent demonstrators at so-called elite universities recently to know that our high school here in town could have played host to such activities. Jews in this country and the universities and beyond have been attacked, prevented from freely walking on campus, going to class. And one older demonstrator in California was murdered in the street in cold blood. You don't hear about that too much anymore, do you? And then we have the disgusting anti-Semitic chants to go along with it at these rallies, protests, whatever the hell you want to call them. F the Jews, go back to Poland, everyone's favorite, of course, from the river to the sea, which shamefully calls for the genocide of all Jews in the state of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. So don't tell me this isn't about anti-Semitism. And I heard some of that at the Eastern Regional Board meeting a couple of weeks ago. It's not about anti-Semitism. Of course it is. Of course it is. If it wasn't, where's your outrage about the 1 million Uyghurs in China being thrown into concentration camps and murdered and worked to death? And where's your outrage about the hundreds of thousands of Syrians that were gassed by their government? Where's your outrage about Muslims in Myanmar that are being murdered? Or Darfur, for that matter. Those are all true genocides. We don't hear a peep about those, though, do we? And while some of it is born from anti-Semitism, obviously, or Marxism, a great deal is born from sheer ignorance and impressionable kids literally knowing nothing about the region or its history, but just going along for the ride as the next trend they've learned from TikTok. So ultimately, it's incumbent upon us, folks, as community leaders in school and beyond, to educate these students and our young people of facts and reality, and not become complicit in allowing the spreading of hate, false narratives, and propaganda. A speaker at the High School Board of Ed meeting made a comment that the pro-Israel crowd doesn't want to feel uncomfortable by our free speech, by having to listen to some of the propaganda that they were spewing and hate. However, I think it's them that don't want to feel uncomfortable as they remain seemingly immune to facts. I encourage them, I really do, I encourage them to be brave and watch the 47-minute films of Hamas atrocities, some of the worst stuff you can't even imagine how awful that stuff was. Awful. Filmed by their own body cameras. And then, of course, Sheryl Sandberg's brave documentary, Screams Before Silence, which chronicles Hamas's use of sexual violence as a tool of war. So I really would encourage folks who, if they're truly open and they want to learn facts, I would start with those two films. They'll be truly enlightening. So in closing, I do want to thank you all again for your leadership and being steadfast in this really time that we haven't seen really since the 1930s and 1940s. So thank you again, and it makes us all feel confident that we have you as leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Friedman. If anyone else would like to make a public comment?
Hi, my name is Edith Croix, and I lived in 1054 Pendleton Court. I actually had a whole speech just like you had, but I'll shorten it because I won't repeat the things that you already heard. I do want to thank you. I feel very fortunate, more fortunate than my friends in Cherry Hill, that this board and Voorhees and Eastern are protecting our child that is there. We feel very nervous about the rise of anti-Semitism. And I just want to repeat your argument saying that if they don't protest the 600,000 Arabs that were killed by Bashar Assad, some of them with chemical weapons, 150,000 of them were children. If they do not protest 13 million Arabs dispersed from Syria, if they do not protest 500,000 killed in Sudan, if they do not protest Afghanistan's 250,000, Yemen 400,000, and Iraq 300,000, then this is not about the death of innocent people. This is about the Jews. And if it's about the Jews, it's about anti-Semitism. If they're only protesting when Israel is involved, then this is not about innocent lives. This is about Israel. And if I haven't convinced the distinguished board of the moral issue of anti-Semitism, the rise of anti-Semitism in our time, which is deeply concerning, perhaps I can convince you that we have seen other institutions that in the name of free speech, democracy, and beautiful values, wonderful values, open their door to people who may use the gentleness and the kindness of these moral values as Trojan horses to bring in their own values, which are not so beautiful to me. You can see campuses and universities and offices vandalized all over the country and in Europe as well. And it feels to a lot of Jewish students like they had gone back to, as you said, Nazi Germany. We are very concerned. It all started with one so-called harmless protest for innocent lives. It sounds very nice. It sounds very democratic. But the violence comes later, and it always does. So why open our gates to that? Thank you for your time, and thank you for all that you have done. We feel very fortunate to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just leave it open for another minute, a few seconds, if anyone else wants to. Great. Hi.
Hello, Hillary Platt, 18 Downing Lane. I recently heard that Eastern is going to have their peaceful protest Monday the 20th. I was wondering if you guys were talking with the school and making sure that this was actually a peaceful protest and putting parameters on it.
Yeah, I know we have been in communication with the school, and I know Chief Bordy has been working directly with the superintendent to make sure that there are no outside influencers. Has been very clear that's against school policy. So we're certainly staying on top of it to make sure that it is a safe protest with appropriate levels of speech.
Thank you.
And we also are very proud of the student groups that met to come to this decision to together have not even call it a walkout, but a rally for peace. So to bring all the Eastern students together instead of, at least we didn't see the events that happened without downing I'm a graduate of Cherry Hill East, but some of the images that happened at Cherry Hill East were awful. And none of that happened because the students eventually got together with some of the administration, not the Board of Ed, but the administration there, and decided that they were going to go forth this path. And hopefully they stay in that direction, and that's what we're all hopeful for, because I think a lot of what was just expressed is, I don't know how to say this, like more geopolitical, more global, the fear that Jewish people have, but it's the same fear that a lot of the local Muslim community has here now too. From a war that's happening far away, but then images we're seeing on TV, or we have kids at these colleges that are now coming home and telling stories, and it's a fragile time. So trying to remain one community. Voorhees has always been known as a diverse, peaceful, we're 11.2 square miles, I think it is. I know Cherry Hill's diverse, but we're more diverse because we're more compact. And we really haven't had stuff like happen at the high school, even leading up to the end, which again, we all applaud. You know, I would ask as one of the deputy mayors that we that if I'm Jewish, that's no secret, that all of us also think about our neighbors and the fear that they must have, because it's not easy on either side when you're talking about adults. You know, the kids at colleges and high schools are learning a tough lesson, and some of this stuff's gonna follow them for a long time, which is a shame. But because, like Mike said, they might have been chanting from the river to the sea, but they didn't know what the hell that even meant. So it's not an excuse, but I would just ask that the community locally, that, you know, we try to remain even keeled, even though that's hard for everyone sometimes, those of us that are vested in this, and that we lose sleep at night over stuff like this. Those of you that saw the video of what happened at the ShopRite in Inglewood, my family owns some of the local ShopRites. I know that family really well. The irony of it, that family's a Jewish family that guy was going off about Jewish people about. And that video, if you see it, it's disturbing. And that was not a Muslim person that I know of from what I'm being told, but that could happen here, and that's when neighbors got to step up for each other, because nobody did anything. Nobody. And the poor guy that was getting yelled at, I mean, he walked away scared. So I was just.
Come approach again.
I think we had
someone
Yeah.
who's waiting to come up.
Hello.
Hi.
A.S. Salem. I live in Alluvium Lakes. Obviously, being here is not the easiest thing for many in our community to do. But it's amazing to me that our community claims to stand against hate and intolerance. Take, for example, the peaceful walkout organized by high school students for Palestinian lives and human rights, and America's direct funding and support. The outrage this has sparked in the community is mind-blowing. We're told it's all about opposing hate speech. We oppose hate speech so much that the leaders and community members in this community responded to this peaceful walkout in this way, and all of these are direct quotes. It's a pro-Hamas rally, period. Supporting Palestine in 2024 equals supporting Germany in 1939. The terrorist supporters are doing a walkout. These are pro-terrorists. They believe they're protesting for innocence. Take them all away. Send them to Gaza. Trade 10 of them for each hostage. How about the name of the organizer? Glad to show up in front of their house and a group of friends. Are there any moderate Muslims? Are there any at all? Stop saying I'm for the Palestinian people. Those people don't exist. A keffiyeh might as well be a swastika. They must be disallowed. Ignorant anti-Semites. Did our memories of the Shihadi bombings in the 1990s and 9/11 simply vanish? No one wants to say what the real problem is. Not all faiths are created equally. These people don't value or believe in scientific enlightenment or women and basic human rights. And my favorite, it's not Islamophobia when they really do want you dead. What I just read are all statements from our local community that's standing up against hate. Ironic, isn't it? The community is so against hate and intimidation that some are threatening to show up at kids' houses. Clearly, the real hate here is not the peaceful walkout for human rights, but the community's hateful reaction to it. And as someone said tonight, words is the beginning. Violence comes later. Thank you.
I think we,
I think there's a
I think there's
gentleman
just a
behind you that
gentleman.
wants to speak. Yes.
so here we go. So the
Sir.
challenge has
Sir,
been made.
could you please state your
Name
name?
is,
Sir, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, so Munawar Hashmi. I'm a long-time resident of Voorhees in Beagle Club.
Thank you.
My son and daughter went through school. They're all gainfully employed and all settled in the real world. And the challenge has been made that where is the moderate Muslim? Well, we are very small, presence here because of that reason that we feel under threat. We feel under threat with a kind of mentality that all the people come in and they start, reciting all the old news about what Jewish people have gone through. Well, what is the school? Students were going to do is that they were going to do a peaceful walkout. In response to, there was a walkout by the Jewish students, all right, but they were stopped. And things gotten so ugly that then I heard that even the principal, Mr. Tull, had to resign because of whatever internal dissensions were there or whatever. But so right now I have been told that there is a new peaceful rally going to happen on May 20th, I think next Monday. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so we will humbly request that peaceful rally should be allowed to happen. And I understand that our numbers are very small compared to the other folks, and you can see that here, right? We have only 2 or 3 maybe. So because we feel threatened to go in public and support our cause. Now, here is our cause. Whatever happened with Hamas, we can go back to the history, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, what caused that, whatever Hamas did, that was terrible, and nobody is supporting that. Muslim community in the US, in the worldwide, none of the Arab countries are supporting Hamas. We can see that. Saudi Arabia is not supporting, Egypt is not supporting. All right, so now here we are, where there was an attack and the reaction was volatile. Even our president, Joe Biden, acknowledged that there were all kinds of excesses were made. Last Friday, there was a report that came out saying that Israel has used bombs that we have given them, and that resulted in the thousands of people. There are like 35,000 officially people died. Some other people are saying that there could be a lot more. So even Biden is trying to stop sending the weapons so that more people will not be killed. By the way, there has been all kinds of discussion. There has, resolution and ceasefire. But last week, even New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, they all reported that Hamas has accepted the ceasefire agreement. But see, that's the problem.
Okay.
Can I, go and speak? Because I see there is a like a violent reaction to my small speech here.
Yes, so if we can just be respectful.
And that shouldn't be allowed, Mr. Ravitz.
Yeah, talk.
Okay, so but why they are shouting at me? I didn't shout.
Sir.
I was
Okay.
silent.
Telling them to be quiet.
You can continue.
Right, but they shouldn't have resorted to that. I mean, they gave all kinds of speech, and we just sat there.
We're all under control now. You can continue your
you can
comments,
continue.
sir.
All right,
Please
okay,
continue.
So to continue with that comment, again, that, we pride, especially in Voorhees Township, and the reason I said my children went through that, this is back in 90s, we have been here since 96, and we felt that, our township is very diversified, and they acknowledge the differences in religion, differences in culture. We have a diversity committee.
Sir, I don't want to.
So,
You're just at the 4-minute mark, so we're just going to have to ask you to wrap up with your final closing.
beg your
comments.
pardon?
So you're at your 4-minute mark for your public comment, so if you could just please wrap up with some final
Can I
comments.
take 1 more minute?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay. So at the end, at the outset, I will say that for the peace and harmony of the township, and Voorhees should be an example, and how Muslims, Jewish, Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, they're all living together. And
Some of you will remember that, Mr. Zia, maybe, rest in peace. He brought together different people and built that mosque, which we are very proud of it. Voorhees Township supported that. But now we feel that last thing I want to say, there was a statement made that one Jewish guy was killed. All of you remember, back in October, there was a little 8-year Palestinian kid who was killed, and that was one example of Islamophobia. That kid was actually killed by somebody.
That was your extra minute.
All right, thank you for addressing. Some people allowing me to, go 1 minute more. And I just want to say that we should have the walkout to show to the world that we are.
Thank you.
Let me be very
Thank
clear.
you.
Thank you.
Let me be very, very clear about our role and our statement in this walkout, and me personally, which was, I believe, echoed in our statement and Congressman Norcross's statement, which was the only issue. I am all for free speech, and like Mr. Friedman said, though, free speech has boundaries, and I don't think any of the kids would have done it. I would hope that any Eastern kids walking out, any race, religion, or creed would not be chanting from the river to sea, and that they know what it means. But my issue with the timing and Congressman Norcross's was that the walkout was planned for during Passover. And if the situation was reversed and there was Jewish kids that wanted to protest BLM because of some of the things that they've done, backing Hamas, or with the paratroopers they had in that Hamas did to fly in the kibbutzim to get across the border. There was a meme going around from BLM Chicago. So if there was a group of Jewish students that wanted around MLK Day to do it, I would stop it. And we would stop it. We would implore, and all the Jewish parents that are here, that it is not appropriate. And Passover and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are the holiest days we have in the Jewish religion. If it was Ramadan and these Jewish kids wanted to do it, or Christian kids, I would be the first one to speak up and say that is the most disrespectful thing you could do. Or EID, this committee was not against the walkout. This committee was against the timing of the walkout based on the holiday of Passover. And I was actually contacted, I don't know if everybody was, but it's public record, and I was contacted by one of the students that wanted to meet after the statement came out. And I said that there is a precondition to the meeting, and the precondition is that you move the walkout to after Passover. And he respectfully declined. And then we had some very respectful debate back and forth, and he knew what he was talking about, and I do, about the history, and we walked away as we had a respectful conversation. So those students, the leaders, were offered to meet with Township Committee if they moved it to non-Passover, the walkout to a non-Passover time. But they declined. So there's nothing I can do about that. We also have nothing to do with purview over the school besides first responders. I'm pointing to Chief Bordy. They provide all the security, make sure that road around Eastern has to remain open. We cannot have people from outside the community come, and they were threatening a car rally, and this was not the Eastern kids. These were adults threatening a car rally, and I don't know who hijacked the students' flyer and invited the community, but that was when that road's got to remain clear. We have Voorhees Pediatrics, we have Lionsgate, we have an over 55 Traditions, and I think other medical offices there that need to have EMS and our police department to respond at any moment's notice. Okay, so that's why things got heated on that Wednesday night, I think it was, when that flyer got changed and we started seeing it on social media, not by the kids, but by outside without naming the groups, outside groups, that were gonna come to town. And then I have a post that's up from back then that says, safety is more important, you're not welcome in our town if you're not a student. Since Columbine, nobody's been allowed on school campuses unless you have a pass or you're a parent. You're not allowed.
Sir.
Sir,
Sir, you already had your 5 minutes, sir.
So I was just explaining, I just wanted to make clear Township Committee's position about the timing. It was all had to do with the Jewish holiday. And if it was reversed with any religion, the same thing would happen.
Hi, my name is Asma Rumi, and I'm in Beagle Club. I'm here to talk about the culture that this town can help shape. It's absolutely absurd that anything that has to do with pro-Palestinian sympathy is labeled as pro-Hamas. It is absolutely absurd that the criticism of the acts of a government are labeled as anti-Semitism. I know that all the examples that were provided about where people have died, where conflicts have happened, where uproar has happened or not happened, has everything to do with the fact that what's currently happening in that region is funded by US tax dollars. Our tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars are going towards funding and supporting the military. And that's what all of these protests and encampments were about. It's about the money. If the US was funding Uyghur Muslims or whatever China is doing or whatever Darfur is doing or whatever is happening in Haiti, I guarantee you that this protest would be about what's happening in Beijing or be about protesting what's happening in Haiti if the US tax dollars were funding it. And people don't want their money going towards killing other people, and that's the basis of it. If Israel was bombing not Gaza or someplace else and the US was supporting that, then there would be riots against that and encampments and protests against that too. And in terms of what happened in Passover or the protest that was happening in Passover, there have been so many interfaith, peaceful seders. I have been involved in many of them. There are so many organized by Jewish brothers and sisters who want to talk about Passover as the perfect opportunity to talk about people and their freedom. And it's not that this protest was happening in the evening during Seder dinner or ceremonies. It was happening during the school day where the students were in the building. It wasn't on the school holiday where somebody's religion or time off was being disrespected. It was happening during the school day, just like every other protest has happened. And there's always some sort of law enforcement or safety, but the students had the right. And I will read for the record the letter from the ACLU that was sent to your friends, Melinda Kane and Jeff Nash. This letter incorrectly characterizes any pro-Palestinian speech as anti-Semitic and disregards student-free speech rights under the federal and state constitutions. Anti-Semitism and anti-Islamophobia, anti-Muslim and anti-Jewish are both sides of the same coin. You cannot talk about one without talking about the other. Jews and Muslims by faith are brothers and sisters. They are cousins, but the politics in between are dividing us. Any speech against Israel has nothing to do with Jewish people. It has everything to do with the government, the funding, and the bombing. And I can guarantee you that if there are riots, there are protests against when the Pakistani, whatever is happening, there are buses of people that go up and rally at the embassy. Just because you don't see it on the news, and just because it doesn't make mainstream media, and you don't see it in your face, does not mean that there aren't people protesting against what's happening in China, protesting what's happening in Darfur, or happening other atrocities around the world. This one is front and center, and this is what everybody's latching on to, so I'm here to tell you that it is not the same thing. It's all about taxpayer dollars, and anti-Semitism has nothing to do with the encampments. It is all about the policies of what's happening in that country. And if it was any other country besides Israel, that the US was funding their weapons, it would be the same conversation. Thank you.
I would like to, really quick, I would like to read into the record.
Yeah, go ahead.
We received a letter today from students at Cherry Hill East and Eastern, and you mentioned the ACLU, and I think CARE New Jersey. Had some back and forth with the county commissioners, Mr. Nash and Miss Kane, who by the way is a Gold Star mother. Her son Jeremy was killed overseas in conflict. But I have a letter to read. I have nothing to say about CARE. Their record speaks for themselves. But I will read this into the record about the ACLU. From students at Eastern and East. Dear ACLU New Jersey Policy Director Sarah Fajardo, I am reaching out to you to express my concerns regarding a recent letter dated May 7, 2024, addressed to the Camden County Board of Commissioners concerning their communication with the superintendent of the Eastern Camden County Regional District on April 22nd. As a senior at Cherry Hill East, who has many friends at Eastern Regional High School, I feel compelled to offer my perspective on the matter. While I appreciate the dedication of the American Civil Liberties Union to defending civil liberties, I believe your characterization of the protests may not fully reflect the situation at hand. Specifically, I feel that your assertion that the posters associated with the event were devoid of discriminatory content and violence may not capture the entirety of the circumstances. It's important to acknowledge, while the posters themselves may not have explicitly promoted discriminatory or violent message, there were concerning behaviors exhibited by the organizers, including the dissemination of threatening and harmful messages to Jewish students. These actions, such as sending death threats, created an atmosphere of fear and hostility at the school that could not be overlooked by the commissioners. In the days leading up to the protests, student organizers engaged in a disturbing pattern of behavior. They inundated a Jewish student at Eastern Regional High School with numerous hateful and incendiary messages totaling in the hundreds. These messages were targeted and aimed at the student's decision to join the Israeli Defense Force in the coming year. As a result, a few Jewish students, myself included, from both Cherry Hill East and Eastern Regional High School, brought this matter to the attention of school administrators, including the superintendent, Mr. Cloutier. What deeply concerned us was not just the content of the messages, but their public and online nature. Given that such behavior was displayed openly online, there was a real fear among us that these individuals might escalate their hateful rhetoric in public spaces. In addition to the actions of the student organizers, the decision by the commissioners to call for the cancellation of the rally was also influenced by plans orchestrated by various organizations in the South Jersey and Greater Philadelphia area, and this is who I was referring to, operating under the banners at Philly for Palestine, SJ for Gaza, and at New Jersey for Palestine. This coalition collectively has more than 5,000 Instagram followers, was intending to conduct a car rally originating from Cherry Hill and extending into Voorhees, with explicit intentions to disrupt the school day at Eastern Regional High School. Moreover, they actively encourage non-student participation. These organizations have a well-documented history in disseminating anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist rhetoric, and we believe their presence on school property could pose significant harm to our Jewish community, especially during the holy Jewish holiday of Passover. Furthermore, it's essential to keep in mind that permitting outsiders, potentially numbering into the hundreds, to enter school property flagrantly violates Eastern Regional School District Policy 5842, Equal Access of Pupil Organization. This policy explicitly states that non-school persons cannot directly conduct, control, or regularly attend a school activity. Additionally, the organizers of the protest claimed in their poster that the school and administration had approved the protest, misinforming students at Regional High School about its true nature. The school and administration had never approved the protest to begin with. These are not my words, these are high school kids who attend Eastern and East. Having studied Tinker versus Des Moines, independent community school district 393 US 503-506 in 1969, which you referenced, I'm well versed in its significant form. From the AP US Government Politics class, which I took last year, the Supreme Court's ruling affirmed that the students retain their First Amendment rights while at school, provided their actions do not materially or substantially interfere with the educational process as stated by the Constitution Center. However, it's evident that this specific scenario fails to meet this standard. On the day the protest was planned, numerous Jewish students opted to stay home from school out of fear that their education would be disrupted by a protest organized by individuals with documented history of anti-Semitism. This preemptive action highlights tangible interference with the educational environment anticipated from the protest. Furthermore, the potential arrival of outside organizers and groups such as At Philly for Palestine, South Jersey for Gaza, and New Jersey for Palestine onto school property during school hours would undoubtedly disrupt the learning environment. Their mere presence of these protesters could result in trespassing on school grounds without permission, further exacerbating the disruption. In the majority opinion of Tinker versus Des Moines, Justice Ab Fortas highlighted the absence of evidence demonstrating any interference of the school's functioning or infringement upon the rights of other students. Specifically, he stated that the school had no evidence whatsoever of the petitioner's interference, actual or nascent, with the school's work or of collusion with the rights of other students to be secure and to be let alone. Furthermore, Fortas emphasized that the student's speech or actions did not intrude upon the school's operation and the rights of fellow students. However, the situation at Eastern Regional High School presents a stark contrast to the circumstances in Tinker versus Des Moines. Contrary to the absence of interference in Tinker, the planned protest at Eastern Regional High School, as aforementioned, posed a tangible threat to the educational environment and safety of students. The documented histories of anti-Semitism among the protest organizers, coupled with the potential disruption caused by outside organizations, clearly indicated an interference with the school's work and the rights of other students to feel secure in their learning environment. In light of these concerns, it's clear that permitting the protest to proceed would not have only jeopardized the safety and well-being of Jewish students, but also have undermined the school's ability to maintain a conducive learning environment. Thus, the action taken by the commissioners to address these threats were necessary to uphold the integrity of the educational process and ensure the rights and safety of all students. Finally, your letter, while well-intentioned, appears to have inadvertently emboldened the organizers of the protest, who have a history of using anti-Semitic rhetoric. Moreover, it has caused damage to the political reputation both of the superintendent and district and the commissioners. Given these unintended consequences, I respectfully urge you to reconsider your stance on this matter and retract your letter. I would welcome your opportunity to meet with you to further contest to discuss potential courses in action. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I can't name names, but a student government vice president, government president, student class past president, Jewish student union president, and another student were part of this. And just one more thing, addressing the comment that was made that about these Seders. I think they were called anti-Zionist Seders, perpetuated by Jewish people. I'll let people in the crowd explain who those 5% of the Jewish population is, because it's really not my place. But yes, they exist, and no, they don't represent the views of 95% of the Jewish people.
Hi, my name is Randy Kessler, Beagle Club, a 40-year Voorhees resident, whose kids are way out of the school district. I just have a question that may sound kind of naive, but I've been obviously reading about what's going on. Is there a reason, and I know this isn't the school district, so I recognize that, and I appreciate very much the letter that you did write in support, but why doesn't the school why does it have to take place at Eastern? If somebody wants to have a protest, say for example, get a permit, Connolly Park, and let that be run. Why is this happening in the school? I mean, I understand you're not the school district, but why must these whole things be?
The superintendent of the school cited a Supreme Court case that the kids have the right to walk out, and the Jewish kids did after October 7th. So there's no reason that the kids wanting to organize a pro-Palestine walkout should not have been able to do it. Again, our only issue was not during Passover. And Passover is 8 days, that's not only the two Seders. And the school might have been in session, and no school district has ever given off 8 days for Passover, except if they're observant, obviously, I mean, and it's a secular school, and, or not a secular school, a Jewish faith-based school, like a day school, they were off all 8 days. But
I mean,
as far as
quite
know.
frankly, I'd be afraid to send my child to school.
They're allowed
And
to walk out.
okay.
They're allowed to peacefully walk out. The Jewish kids were allowed. The only issue any of us up here had in our statement was it was during Passover. If the Jewish kids or Christian kids wanted to walk out to show solidarity post 10/7, then the kids who are against what Israel's doing right now, and everyone has their own opinion, and we could go back and forth about this country
Right, no,
supplying
I-
weapons
right.
and our tax dollars, and we could have a geopolitical debate all night long. But they're allowed to walk out.
Why must it be during a school day, though? Could it be
I don't
after
know.
a school day?
Evidently, it's been
Again,
tested.
I think that's
That-
really up to the
that would be the-
organizers. It is part of the,
yeah.
it is part of the constitutional rights for free speech to apply to public schools.
As a parent who spent many years involved with the education of Voorhees, I would think people would be worried about what is our math, what's our physics, what's, like this, why are you sending your kid to school? I understand,
That's up to the parent.
Yeah, but I wondered if you have any influence to.
No,
Nothing.
it's
Nothing.
totally, we can put out a statement or whatever, but besides that, the school board is their own separate and total entity.
And it doesn't sound like they're very receptive.
We have no interaction with them.
Okay.
The only interaction we have is with Superintendent Cloutier and any students that reach out. And there's been dialogue, for sure.
And I can assure you that this committee, as Jason referenced, the only control type involvement that we have with relation to the schools is about public safety. And our chief of police and myself have been actively involved in that regard. So while we cannot ever say we do not run when they occur, how they occur, or the parameters around that, we absolutely do work very hard to ensure that they are safe and secure at all times.
I only read that letter because the ACLU was brought up and anticipating that.
I got it.
Those were not my words. Those were the words of 6 student government leaders, past and present.
And that was Voorhees and Cherry Hill?
Yes.
Okay,
I can't name names.
okay. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe she's had her hand up.
Have another speaker?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, two.
I think she's had her hand up for a while.
Sorry.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Naz Hashmi. I live in Audrey Court in Voorhees, and I am quite upset about what's happening since last few weeks about all the kids not being allowed to protest legally, rightfully so, while the other side was allowed to have a demonstration, protest, or support, whatever you call it. Pro-Palestinian people should be allowed also. It should be a free place, a diverse place, and we should all be allowed to openly view or say what we desire to say, as long as it's proper, obviously, keep in mind. And I think that Voorhees should be more a place for really, truly diverse place where everybody is allowed to come here, study, live here, and enjoy with freedom, and without any threatening people who are, putting fear in you that you are pro-Israel or anti-Israel or pro-Palestine or anti-Palestine. This protest that's going to happen on 20th of May, hopefully it's going to happen, should not have all those these kids should be allowed to say it's just anti-war. Basically, it's not a protest pro-Hamas. God forbid. I don't think so. It's really a protest to show that we should not be using our taxpayer money to kill people. That's how I feel, and I think if those students want to say it, they should be allowed. And that's all the message I want to say. Thank you.
I think you would be hard pressed to
Our only
hear.
understanding is that that the leaders of the Muslim student group and the leaders of the Jewish student group came together, I think that Thursday before the Friday of the planned walkout, and they decided that they wanted to do a May 20th peace rally together. That's what our understanding is. And again, I don't know how to be any more clear. Our only issue.
I think you can be clear by saying that we agree with everything that you said.
But the
You
issue
didn't
was.
say anything that anyone on this committee
The
disagrees
issue
with.
was, but I want to be clear, the issue was
Right.
Passover timing, and that was it.
We agree that to the extent that the school permits a walkout, again, which we do not have control over that as long as you said proper and peaceful, that is up to the students, that is up to the school. We will deal with public safety. That was never, as Jason expressed his concern at all, as far as that occurring. If that is what occurs, we anticipate that will be what occurs.
And there's been dialogue, by the way, and again, I'm not at liberty to name names. There's been dialogue between my colleague Jackie that just spoke and myself, and specifically a student leader on the pro-Palestine Muslim side that we felt very productive, and that I intend to meet with again. And I asked him actually last week if he wanted to grab coffee and continue the talking. And we got more into the geopolitical stuff that you're talking about that is way above all of our heads. We don't control any of that stuff. That's more apt for Congressman Norcross's office with the federal funding and all that stuff. But I will tell you, we had a very productive meeting, and again, we applaud the student groups coming together to do whatever they choose to do on May 20th. But we will not tolerate, from a public safety perspective, any outside agitators from coming in.
Well, what exactly happened, the one which was pro-Israel or pro...
Anybody that was there that was an adult and not a school student, admin, or faculty was ejected.
Well, let's hope it goes well, and they should be allowed to speak, and they should be allowed...
Only kids.
Yeah, that's just a school
You're not
policy.
allowed on school
Right,
grounds.
right. Whatever it is, it should be allowed properly, and they should be able to speak up. That's what we are teaching them in school, not to be, you say that Iran is doing such and such, banning children not to speak. If we do the same thing here, then what's the difference?
Right, but so that kind of, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But the Board of Ed, some of these, I wasn't there intentionally because I didn't want to be a distraction, but there were people here that were there. And evidently there was not much of this back and forth at those meetings from what I was told by people. And they were, I will also point out that the only person that made a statement about the students, the situation, was, I believe, the superintendent or the kids themselves. There was one statement put out, the Board of Ed was silent through the whole thing. And that's a whole nother story about leadership. And if you have a kid at Eastern or had a kid at Eastern, I don't anymore, but it's not a shock, that's all I'll say.
Well, it should be fixed then, because
We have no control.
It's a place of learning,
no
and
control.
We also agree with that.
We agree with the Board
All
of
right.
Ed being
Thank you,
fixed,
ma'am.
yes.
I just want to be clear on something too, just so everyone understands, because there were some comments that were read into the record that insinuated that there was obviously some hate speech being said online. We do not condone that or endorse that in any way on either side. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that there were comments made on, and I don't want to get into a tit for tat or open this up, but there were heinous things that I won't read into the record written on Eastern students' commitment posts, which Mr. Roberts referenced, which are completely unacceptable, and they were written by other Eastern students. So it would be unfair, as one of our speakers said, if we don't talk about one but we don't talk about the other. We do not stand for that. We do not accept that. We do not endorse that. So while we agree with free speech and we agree that students should be able to come together and collaborate and figure out ways to make our community more diverse and coexist, what were written underneath that student's post were threatening and alarming, and they should not be something that is allowed to continue. So I just want to be clear that we do not support hate on either side.
I totally... I completely agree with that, but I have seen the other side posting pretty nasty things
And I'm
about
not,
it.
and I'm not suggesting that
And it's pretty visible.
Ma'am, you're at your 4 minutes.
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
And I think, again, listen, I don't really want to belabor this point, because if anything, I appreciate all of the comments. I certainly appreciate all of you being here. I think a couple of points need to be very clear. We are not the Board of Education. We are doing the best that we can. Jason and I in particular have incessantly been in communication with the school leaders, and our chief of police on a variety of issues. related to what has happened. What I'm hearing that I think I can do, because let's also be very clear, I suffer no delusions of grandeur that sitting in this seat, I will ever have an impact on what's going on millions of miles away in a foreign war, okay? I want to be very clear, and I hope my colleagues would agree with me on that. So all of the comments about the particulars of what is happening there, while they are certainly important and they may frame your beliefs, I only want to hear about them as to how they affect how we engage as neighbors and community members. Our statement was prompted by hateful anti-Semitic rhetoric by a student, and we felt obligated to speak out against that. I will tell you and share with you that there have been folks who have shared with me that certain terminology was maybe viewed a certain way, and I will tell you that I am considering how the impact of messaging is most important. And I'm going to ask everybody in this room to also consider how the impact of your messaging happens. Your intent is probably less important than your impact when it comes to being a good community member. So if you want to sit and fight with your neighbor about a definition of something occurring in a foreign war, you can bet that that communication will not go very far. What I think we in Voorhees need to focus on, and what I believe my colleagues all agree with me that we can do for you as leaders, is to help you create community through open communication and through equitable advancement of those theories. Meaning both sides cannot speak hatefully. Yes, we know. And again, ma'am, I know your time was up, and of course we see it all happening. We don't condone any hate speech. We've heard from people saying that the students were called terrorists. Do I feel good about a student, probably my neighbor's child in high school, being called a terrorist? Absolutely not. Do I think that a child should be threatened solely because of she is Jewish and Israeli? Absolutely not. These are the things that we can control, okay? I cannot control, except for by my vote in the federal government, where my taxpayer money goes in a foreign war. The things we can control are how we treat each other. And I would like that to start here and tonight, because the tit for tat does not go over well with me. Thank you.
And Jackie and I have also met with some of the people from the local Muslim group, new group called Voice. And I think we had a productive meeting last week. It definitely, I told Jackie, some light bulbs went off in my head and that's why I said, think about, if you're a Jew, think about how it must feel to be someone who could be identified easily as Muslim at, like, I'm not saying shopper, I'll say Wawa, but like, it was expressed to us that particular person, again, without naming names, that we met with, said that, and I could see that, and that light bulb went off in my head because it never struck me. And on the other side of the coin, I would ask that the Muslim community and other, Christians and would understand what it's like for Jews that have family that were murdered in the Holocaust or had medical experiments done on them in the Holocaust, and somehow we're standing here, and I think that's a lot of the reason why people, Jews have a reputation for being able to mobilize, and from an activist perspective, but I do say, and one of the things I walked out of that meeting was, I never thought about how it must feel to be readily identified as Muslim, wearing the headdress and people looking at you, and just like it is for an Orthodox Jew that's dressed up in all black, the men. I mean, I've had people, look, I've had pennies thrown at me at work during a labor strike. I recently, because of my social media activity, I get phone calls on my phone from numbers that it could be like Michelle's calling me, and it's a rerouted app, and it's, you know, die you dirty Jew in a garbled voice recently. To the point I'm sleeping with a handgun next to my bed. Okay, and not letting my daughter sleep in my house. So that was an enlightening back and forth we had. And again, we can debate the geopolitical stuff about the federal funding and all of that, but that's not for here. And I don't think I think people are gonna have opposite views, like Jackie said, on the war itself. But I think locally, my takeaway from meeting with one of the students and meeting with the group from Voice and having dialogue, continued dialogue with both of those folks have been that there's much we can learn. We have more in common than we do different. 90% of the stuff, like Jackie said to me once, we all are on the same page. It's that other 10 that's, you know, causing problems. And again, free speech. There's no problem with the kids walking out during the school day. They just, our only opposition was Passover. That is it. I hope they do it on May 20th and that they will have a walkout for peace.
Mr. Roberts, I'm going to stop your clock. Sorry.
I just want to be clear. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say it.
I just want to make sure that the public has a chance to.
We got all night. We usually have nobody here.
I'll let you continue in a second.
No, go.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Mary McCusker. I was born in Voorhees. I still live in Voorhees. I'm an Eastern High School graduate, and I just want to share real quick that the proudest moment I had at Eastern High School was in 2009, when the administration allowed the entire student body, myself included, to walk out of Eastern during school hours to counter-protest the Westboro Baptist Church when they showed up specifically to target our Jewish friends at Cherry Hill East during Hanukkah. Why they were allowed there to show up with slogans that call for the deaths of Jewish people in the first place, why that was allowed is beyond me. But Eastern was on the right side and allowed us all to leave, to rally against people calling for the death of Jews. That was the moment I was most proud of Eastern. They allowed that to happen, and they should have. So I am at a loss to understand why the line is drawn at Palestinian life when there were walkouts after October 7th, after the loss of Israeli life. And I don't know how many more thousands of children need to be killed to be worthy of being honored too, just like there were Israeli people honored after October 7th. But I think it's been made abundantly clear that in Voorhees, some lives are worth more than others, and some civilians are worth mourning, but not all of them. And I'm getting a little bit sick of hearing both sides, as if this is all proportionate in terms of what people are experiencing here and across the world. If civilian lives were treated equally, there would have been so many walkouts by now specifically for the civilians in Gaza. Do those lives not count, even in death, or are they justified, or are children not considered to be civilians? And like many students and young people, I'm also questioning how we're defining things like safety, things like proportionality, things like self-defense. If, God forbid, there was a shooter, God forbid, at our school, would you condone bombing the entire school in the name of self-defense, just as Israel has done to the vast majority of schools in Gaza? I would hope not. No one will forget the selective outrage that's been shown or the vitriol that you've allowed to be spewed on social media, Mr. Ravitz. Hopefully, now that this has fallen under legal scrutiny and has captured the attention of the media, you'll do the right thing and take every step you can to right these wrongs, because from experience, I promise you that these students won't forget this moment in time or how they were treated and how you all reacted. And to me, I think it's the most anti-Semitic thing in the world to equate Judaism with what Israel has done to the people of Palestine with US dollars every single day since October 7th. It makes me deeply concerned about how much the word anti-Semitic will carry going forward, and that is a tragedy. It's not anti-Semitic to condemn a foreign government that is currently defending itself from charges of genocide in the International Court of Justice, and it isn't anti-American to protest the actions of our own government, including in our schools.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Kedover. I've lived in Voorhees for 20 years. I'm listening to this conversation and I'm getting upset, as I'm sure many of us here are. But what I want to say is we might actually be the problem. The kids in high school are coming together to talk, and they're having a peaceful rally. We are fighting and disagreeing about something that's not even happening here right now. I am a proud Jew and a Zionist. And I sat on the stage with that woman's husband a few months ago, where we held a conversation that was facilitated by myself and her husband. We had a Muslim religious leader and we had a Jewish religious leader. And we sat here and we facilitated a conversation. Because let's be honest, folks, to my people, I say, we can actually criticize the Israeli government and be pro-Israel. And we can have humanity about the Palestinian lives lost. To the Muslims in this community, I say, as American citizens, our dollars fund military operations all over the world. So why are we singling out what Israel is doing right now? I am calling for higher levels of candor and intellectual honesty in this conversation. What I would ask this body to think about, since this is your charge, not the Eastern Board of Education and not the Eastern School, is to think about how you can lead us or support us to have a community dialogue about this. Because this back and forth is toxic. We need to understand each other. We are not going to agree. We're not. People say anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think it is. Some people won't agree with me. If our goal is to agree, we're not going to ever come together as a community. We need to understand each other and talk respectfully, with candor, with honesty, and with compassion. And that is where I think you can come in and support a conversation. Thank you.
And Julie, to that effect, we do have a diversity committee, which we did invite many people to after what had happened recently at Eastern, and they were welcomed, and it was a good conversation. So Voorhees Township does try to do that, and I agree, we're not going to agree on these points and these little jabs that are done. When Jackie said tit for tat, but still people get up and talk about tit for tat. We're not going to agree with those things. We're not, but we can educate, and we can learn about everything that we need to know about each other and why we have the points of view we do.
And coexist and live together. We live together, we're neighbors. Yes.
Jesse? Do I have to say my name? You have to say your name and where you
It's on your
don't have to
shirt
say your address, but you can say.
Jesse, Carriage Brook Farms. Okay. Hi, my name is Jessie, and I'm 18 years old and go to Fusion Academy in Cherry Hill, or at least I used to. I refused to keep going because these kids were bullying me for being Jewish. A 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old bullying someone because of their religion? I tried to stay there, I really did. I said I'm too mature for this while shaking and crying to my teachers. I haven't been there in months. I do online Zoom classes, which is extremely depressing, just like in 2020. I didn't really finish the speech, but I was debating about going to my graduation on June 6th, and I decided that I've experienced a lot of stuff in high school, and I should be able to enjoy my graduation. Even though there will be kids there that are against me, I'm still going to go, and I'll be back with my parents, and I'll be okay. I also wrote, I get scared to go to work knowing it is run by a Jewish family, and we offer kosher services. I said to my dad the other day, I always have a plan if someone comes in to hurt us. I always say to my coworkers a lot of times, I share with them my fears about people coming in with a gun and targeting our rabbits. I talk about hiding in bookkeeping and stacking chairs up by the door or running outside and leaving the people that I love inside, not knowing that they'll make it out alive. How is that okay? I'm a child. Just like someone said before, the problem is not the children, it's the adults, and you guys do not act mature. This is a back and forth thing, and it's not working, and to fear for my life going to work or fear for my life going to school is something really scary, and I should be able to go somewhere where I feel comfortable. I haven't seen my dad in 3 weeks or stayed at his house in 3 weeks because he's been getting death threats as well as my family. I'll see him in the store once in a while and he'll pass by, but I work and he works and there's not a lot of time to talk. How would you feel not seeing your dad for weeks? Because you're scared to go and someone's gonna hurt you. The other night I had a dream that Nazis were coming to take us. In this day, in this year, 2024, I got separated from my mom and my dad and my brother, and my grandparents were killed. And remember hiding in my best friend's attic. It was a nightmare. I woke up the next morning to make sure that it was just a nightmare and not true. I also got bat mitzvahed in Israel in 2018. And to say how many different backgrounds were there is unbelievable. I always say to the people who have not been to Israel, you do not need to be Jewish to go to Israel. My best friend, my childhood best friend, we haven't talked in a bit, but she was in Israel on October 7th. She was one of the first person I thought of. I thought something had happened to her. I hadn't heard from her. I hadn't seen anything from her. I was so scared. And finally she texted me back and I was so relieved. But then to see that there were hundreds and thousands that weren't okay, my heart was broken. To say for all the innocents, I feel bad for everyone. I do feel bad for everyone. Everyone, all the innocents. But I will say that this is my side of the story, and I will say that I want to go to school. I want to be able to have friends. I want to be able to do these things, but I can't. I want to be able to go to work knowing I'm safe. My work is, that's what I do. Sometimes I work 6 to 7 days a week. I love doing it. But honestly, I'm scared to go every day. Sometimes I'm scared to go to sleep. And everyone should feel okay and not be able to live in fear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I was just listening to everybody very carefully, and I have to say that I'm very proud to live in a community that actually listens to each other. And it's a shame that the gentleman and his lady left right now, because I would have asked them out for a cup of coffee or tea, or maybe just to share some information, because I feel that maybe I'm missing some of his information, but he is surely missing some of mine. I feel that I have two things to say. One is that I feel that the issue of equating and that there's both sides, and yes, we do want to live together and listen to each other for sure, but there's no real equation here. My husband's friend was zip-tied to his wife and 2 children and burned alive. Their neighbor's baby was put in an oven while his father was shot and his mother was raped. My son's friend, his body is still being held by Hamas. We are talking about horrible trauma that the Jewish community, specifically Israeli community, but the Jewish community is bringing to this discussion, and that needs to be recognized. You do not have Jewish kids attacking people on campuses. Rather, you have Jewish people being kept out of campuses today. So equating both sides and saying we all need to, yes, we all need to, but unfortunately the reality is not like that. And equating both sides sort of diminishes the violence on one side, and that is just horrible. And I think that for the two ladies that spoke earlier, I would also love to sit with you and discuss the American my tax-paying dollars, going just 2 weeks ago to Hamas and to the PLO and to President Biden, trying to circumvent the Taylor Force Act in order to send more money to the people who are murdering my people. So yes, if you really, really, really wanted peace, if you really wanted this to end, you would have gone to protest Hamas and asked them, lay down your weapons and give back the hostages that you took, and then you would have peace. Thank you. Thank you. It's just, I have a community member in Israel, a friend, that she cannot bury her son because his body is still held there. The second thing I would like to ask, as you as a committee, and not just me sort of emoting here, is there any kind of consequence for the upcoming May 20th peaceful march? If there's any kind of consequence that you as a board can make sure that is enforced against those on either side who would try to pull this protest to an, I think, unwelcome direction.
The only thing we can do is provide the public safety, security.
If
What does that mean?
if it rises to a level of criminality on any side either way, then the police would step in as they would do any other situation.
Can
If
you
it's just
define that for me? What does that mean, criminality?
Security
If somebody
plans.
shouts from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free,
It's up
is
to
that
the-
criminal?
And that
It's
would
up
be
to
a
the school.
It would depend on the situation and exactly who they said to, and without going into specifics, it's a whole issue. I don't want to deal with the hypothetical on it. But if there's any laws that are broken, they will certainly be addressed in terms of if it's school policy and procedures that are broken, that would be a school matter.
Is
So,
there any way for the board to emphasize that or maybe reinforce that with
I
the school
think that
board?
I think that has been
done.
I'm
I'm fearful for my child in Eastern. I was fearful for that protest, and
I'm going to
Thank you.
suggest to you that the communication that has been occurring over the past 3 weeks, I have a high level of comfort that the students are likely to surprise us. I think that they are very mature. I think they are looking to do the right thing. I certainly can't say with any level of certainty. I don't know that I can provide you the assurance that you're seeking as a parent because I understand what you're asking, but I can assure you that the students that we have met with and the information that we have received through the administration about the student meetings is they are people that we can be proud of as parents and as a community.
thank you. Thank you.
My name is Nicole. I am a Voorhees resident here for about 25 years. I just wanted to say that I have a daughter in a private preschool currently, and after October 7th, my husband and I opted to keep her in the private school and not utilize the township school until she's a little older. And reasons are because given the nature of what we have been seeing across the country have been scary as a parent and a Jewish woman. People are calling out for the death of Jews and the death of Israel. And that is scary. My husband's family survived the Holocaust and then fled to Israel before coming to the US. And we still have a lot of family and friends in Israel. And while Voorhees is a diverse township, it also has a strong Jewish presence, which is why we choose to live here. While we support free speech and encourage a diverse community, we are not comfortable knowing that a walkout that is happening at the local high school in our backyards that can potentially incite violence as threats have been already made. That's something I don't want my tax dollars to go to. And finally, if it is about peace, then why don't they mention the hostages, many from the US? And why not protest Hamas? Because if we are going to free Palestine, free them from Hamas.
I live on Regency Drive, been there 15 years. Jason, you don't know me, but I want to thank you very much for speaking out. I know it wasn't easy. I know other board members spoke out as well. And I know the last couple of weeks have been tough for you. The truth is, I'm not a very religious Jew, and it has nothing to do with Passover, in my opinion. The moment that walkout, and I'm a proponent of free speech, and I was at the Board of Education meeting, and it was clear as day that there were going to be outside agitators planning on going. The moment that flyer was altered and made open to the public, I have a 9th grade daughter. We were not sending my kid to school, and that was going to affect her education. So you did the right thing by speaking up, because it wasn't going to be safe. I'm all in favor of a peaceful protest. Students can walk out, that's okay. But thank you for the record.
Hi, my name's Bonnie Gallum. I'm a Voorhees resident for only about 2 years, but a South Jersey resident for my whole life. And I actually want to bring your attention to an incident that happened last summer when my 2 children, who were at Camp Gun Israel, happened to drive past there and saw an extreme police presence. I don't know if anyone knows that it's a summer camp that operates out of Kelman Brown Academy during the summers. There were SWAT teams. And I had people texting me saying that they're seeing things on neighborhood.com saying there's an active shooter at Gun Israel. Anti-Semitism has been rampant in Voorhees and rampant in this country well before October 7th. And it is imprudent of this council to draw any sort of line in the sand saying that this is something new, that this is something different, because every Jew in here knows differently. Every Jew in here who attends a synagogue, every Jew in here who sends their child to day school like I do, knows the price of being Jewish in this country. And we know the price of being visibly Jewish. We know the price of speaking Hebrew in this community, in public. And I do not accept that. I do not accept the double standards of calling out taxpayer dollars that go for bombs when we don't call out the taxpayer dollars that go to UNRWA that teach people to kill and murder Jews and our family members. And in the same breath, I am not afraid to mourn every single innocent Palestinian life that is lost. I am not afraid to do that. My Judaism is not watered down by that. My proud Zionism is not watered down by that. And if I wish that this community comes together the way that I hope these students do on May 20th, on October 8th of last year, then we could have been a model to the world. Because if we would have come together as a community, the way that we hope our brothers and sisters in Israel and Palestine can do, it starts here. It starts with us, and I encourage every parent here who thinks they know it all to get coffee with someone else from the quote-unquote other side. I don't accept other sides. There are human beings, period. And we are citizens of Voorhees, New Jersey, and we are here as each other's equals. None of us have more clout than anyone else based off of how long you've lived here. We are in this together, and any rhetoric otherwise should be turned down, and I hope that these students truly set an example for the rest of us. Thank you.
So I do want to make a comment in response. I appreciate your comments very much. And as a mother, I can only fearfully think about the fear that you felt that day last summer. But to avoid misinformation, there was no shooter on the premises. There was no anti-Semitic incident. There was a... I'm sorry. I apologize. There's no. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to be clear that there was no threat at the premises at the time. And I do want to let you know, and I apologize. Unfortunately, I think that again, why I mentioned one of the things that I believe that maybe you all in this room as clear leaders in the community can assist us in working on is communication. Maybe it wasn't communicated, but this town did in October, right after the terrorist attacks, have a come together, as Julie mentioned. Julie and my colleague who is married to I in the back here, Ahmed, sat with the Hazan from Temple Bethel and the most recent past imam from our local mosque. And we had a wonderful, engaging dialogue. Of course, not everyone disagreed. There were certainly, not everyone agreed. There were certainly some disagreements at the time, but we really did take measures to try to assist people in communicating with each other as neighbors, as humans, despite differences, despite different lived experiences, and to understand that when we communicate, we need to communicate with an eye towards the impact and the reception of our words and of our behavior at all times, especially when there is a time of terrible terror that affects so many members of our community and continues to, clearly, months and months later. So, sorry. I just wanted to clarify, because if we leave here with that. So. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Eric Simkin. I'm a Voorhees resident. I believe that the tenets that America was founded and that we live under are God, family, and country. And I would, as a Jew, I'm reminded every day that I'm a Jew living in the United States of America, and I honor that flag. At Eastern, in the boardroom, you can't even see the American flag. I had to call and ask where it was. It was tucked away in a corner. It wasn't there when I spoke to Dr. Tull. I asked him what other flags are flown, and he said that every flag that a student, student's nationality is there. I personally believe in a public building, especially one that I'm contributing tax dollars to, there should be 2 or maybe 3 flags. The United States of America, New Jersey. If there's a Voorhees flag, that's great. POW-MIA to honor our veterans. And I would just like to know, everyone to know, that we all stand under the flag of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, members of Township Committee, Deputy Mayors. My name is Stuart Platt, and I am a 30-year resident of Voorhees Township. And I stand here tonight in support of the statement made by the Mayor and Township Committee. I am a Jew, I'm an American, and I'm a Zionist. Let me say that again. I'm a Jew, I'm an American, and I am a Zionist. I want to go over the statement that was made by Mayor and Committee a few weeks ago, because I think it's important that we hear that statement again. If it's been read tonight, I apologize, but I'm going to read it again. In light of the recent escalation in the Israel-Hamas war by the Islamic Republic of Iran, Voorhees Township Committee urges all members of our community to take action to ensure that no members of our community are dehumanized for who they are or what they believe. We have recently become aware of an anti-Semitic incidents occurring at Eastern Regional High School, notably in regard to a student's courageous, and I underline courageous because that's what it was, decision to enlist in the Israeli Defense Forces upon graduation. Township Committee respects our students' choices and beliefs, and while we acknowledge and respect that our community holds vast and differing opinions, as you probably heard tonight, on the conflict, harassments, threats, and anti-Semitism will never be tolerated. Anti-Semitism and hatred in all forms must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. And while we, committee, understand the importance of free speech, we entrust our educators and administration to first ensure the safety, physical, and psychological of our children, and ask that they lead with kindness and understanding, but without tolerance for such hatred at all times, especially during the upcoming Passover holiday. In other times, this statement would not be something which anyone would deem controversial or extraordinary. Oh, how times have changed and how quickly these times have changed for the worse. This statement is not ordinary, but is extraordinary at this time because this Township Committee had the wherewithal and the guts as one of the few government agencies to stand for justice, take a stand for fairness, and denounce anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, and again, hatred of any kind. Unfortunately, in this backwards, upside-down world in which we are now living in, barbarism and hatred of Jews has become commonplace, and the vilification and denouncement of Israel has become acceptable in many, many quarters, too many. Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and anti-Israeli attitudes have become the low-hanging, tolerable, poisonous fruit of hatred and racism in this country and around the world. The statement made by the Mayor and Township Committee is extremely important because this is how the Holocaust started. The Holocaust did not begin with the death camps at Auschwitz and Majdanek and the other killing centers, which led to the murder and extermination of 6 million Jews, 1.5 million of whom were children, and 7 million others at the hands of the Nazis and their supporters. That is the way the Holocaust ended. The Holocaust started with words, followed by propaganda not based upon facts, sentiment, public sentiment, and majority silence, eventually evolving into the destruction of European Jewry. Jewish people and people of goodwill everywhere who know their history understand this. We understand that dehumanization and vilification, beginning with statements and vile words, and the support of the murder of Jews is the beginning of a true genocide. Our enemies, the Jew haters, and those that hate Western democracy and Western democratic ideals, have the Nazi blueprint for genocide and extermination of Jews. Our enemies know exactly what they're doing, exactly what works, and using the Jew and Jewish people and anybody who supports the Jewish people or the state of Israel as the historic scapegoat.
Mr. Platt.
We too have this history, excuse me?
To keep consistent with what we've given the other speakers, I just want to let you know that you're at the 5-minute mark.
I am almost done, if you wouldn't mind. We too have history as Jews and people of goodwill, and we know how to present it and prevent it. One of the ways to prevent it is a statement that was made by Mayor and Township Committee. Jews and people of goodwill must fight back and will fight back. One thing the Nazis didn't have, and that today's Jew haters must still face, is the state of Israel. This goes back to my statement about being a Zionist. Zionism, for those who do not know, who have tried to change the definition, is the dream now realized of a Jewish homeland. That homeland was created in 1948 as a direct result of the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were murdered while the world stood by and Jews had very little to no refuge. Wonderful, beautiful Israel, the true land of milk and honey, where the refugees of the Holocaust and those Jewish families who had been living there for centuries turned from what was once a desert into a beautiful country, a Western-like democracy, and a true ally to America and all legitimate countries worldwide. Israel is just the first offense, and hopefully the last offense of this evil hatred that is spreading worldwide. The world needs Israel, America needs Israel, and most importantly, Jews worldwide need Israel, whether you are a Zionist or not. I will finish with this. I'll finish with the statement and the words of Reverend Martin Niemöller, who was a critic of Hitler's Germany and wound up in prison and in concentration camps at the end of World War II. And Reverend Niemöller said this. He said, "First it came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak out for me. The world must still answer for the Holocaust, and the world must answer for October 7th. Thank you."
wasn't planning on speaking tonight, and I know you don't want a lot of back and forth.
I'm sorry, could you just state your name?
Yes, my name is Jessica Dunlap. I see my council member from Mount Laurel up here as administrator. I didn't know you could hold both positions, but
The other
good to
one's
see
not a
you, Steve.
full-time job, believe it or not. I gotta pay my bills.
I just, in light of the statements that have been made about free speech and also about, defending any particular nation, I just want to remind everybody that criticism is not the same as calling for the death of people. I'm an American citizen who has protested our own government's policies many, many times. When the U.S. chose to invade Iraq after the 9/11 attacks, I was against that, not because I thought it was great that all those people died in New York, but because I thought our invasion of Iraq was misguided, and I think history has kind of borne that out. So along the lines of free speech, I think we just need to remember that criticism, including criticism of the very genocidal history of the United States of America, does not make me anti-American, although I can hear from behind me that that's a concern. There are many of us who have been called anti-American, I'm sure, because we did not support Donald Trump or his policies. And I think it's very, very important to distinguish between policies and governments and wanting death to a whole people. I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't want his supporters to all die. That's not what I'm asking for. But I vehemently opposed a lot of his policies, as I know many of the Democrats up here did too. So we really need to contextualize, and the free speech issue for students or for anybody in the community is about criticizing that which we are against, and it does not mean calling for the death of an entire people.
Sir, thank you.
It looks like we're about closing up. I do just want to say, in final comment, I think that, again, as leaders, we've heard everything you said, and I can assure you, one of the most wonderful things that I've had the honor and privilege of being on this committee is that all of us will think long and hard about what you have shared with us. We'll communicate, and we will try to find ideas to ensure that every member of our community feels safe and welcome and included. I do want to reiterate, and I know Mr. Platt reread our statement. I personally stand behind everything that this committee has done over the past 3 weeks. I have shared with you earlier today. I've had communications, and I'm listening and learning about use of certain words and verbiage and definitions, or intent versus impact. I do also, though, want to say that this committee never intends that our words and our stances be weaponized against another member of our community. So please be sure that if you are going to quote us, my colleague and friend, Jason Ravitz, bears the brunt of this. He has one of the biggest hearts of anyone that you will ever meet. And if you are going to quote him, be sure that you know what his intent was. If you are going to quote us, do not weaponize it against another person, because that is never our intent. We are here to continue, hopefully, to create a safe space for all of our community members. Again, I stand behind everything that we've done over the past 3 weeks. I'm very, very proud of this committee in taking a stance, because I do think that most don't. And I hope that you also know, based on tonight, that unlike other areas, other boards, other committees that do not engage with the community, we do. We're always available by email, by phone. We have lots of advisory boards, and would like for you to get involved. You're always welcome to come to these too, though I have to tell you by 9 o'clock, Cinderella comes out, so I may pay a little less attention, but thank you all for being here.
I'd like to make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public portion is closed, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.